I declare open this congregation of the University of Sussex. I'm delighted as Chancellor to welcome you formally to this graduation ceremony. The warmest of welcomes to our honoured guests, our distinguished faculty members and those of the professional services here at Sussex. And also our thanks as well to the brand new film that you saw at the beginning, What Does Sussex Mean to You?, which is produced by Fat Sand with the generous support of our University Council member, Arjo Ghosh. But the warmest of welcomes are for you, our graduands, and your families and friends who join you here today. And to those who couldn't make it here in person and may be watching this via live video stream. Hello. Good morning, good day, good evening, good night, depending on where you are in the world. Erase your history. It is a profound honour for us that you chose Sussex as your place of study and that graduands from all over the world will be receiving their degrees at these ceremonies. And on that note, just a quick word to our foreign students. I want to thank you for playing your part in making us a global university. I know how hard it can be to travel so far and at such expense and to try and get to grips with a different culture, language, and sometimes a different set of values and modes of behaviour. To overcome those hurdles, unfamiliarity and homesickness, to remain focused and resolute. You've been a credit to your university, your families, and your countries. To our homegrown graduands, thank you for confounding the oft-taken view in wider society about the value of a formal education, that it somehow reflects an abdication of social responsibility, that the so-called real world begins when education ends. Many at our winter graduations are living examples that learning is a lifelong pursuit, not attaching itself to age, social background, or specific period in one's life. I don't think any of us can be unaware of how much strife there seems to be around the world at this moment in time, particularly as it's often reported to us as an ideological, and to me an ideo-illogical, set of differences that acts merely to highlight the differences between us rather than what we have in common. It can be pretty depressing. But I saw a wonderful tweet recently ascribing the following by Mr. Fred Rogers, who's an American educator, and he had a kids' show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood on American TV for about 30 years. And he said, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people trying to help.'" And to this day, and especially in times of disaster, I remember my mother's words, and I'm always comforted by realizing that there are still so many helpers, so many caring people in the world. All of you graduands here today, by coming to this place of learning and hopefully fun, together are the shining example of how the world can be. That differences can be respected. altercations can be settled through discourse, and disagreement doesn't need to be interpreted as an attack on your very soul. My mother used to say to me when I was growing up that an insult only becomes one once you've accepted it as an insult. Of course, if I disagreed with her, she'd repeatedly smack me around the head till I did, but that's another matter. Your time here at Sussex, for me, is the best illustration that the human race is a race that can only be won together. Now, I know a lot of you have persevered to get to this day while struggling to balance your studies with home life, raising children, personal loss, sickness, trying to survive on overdrafts, loans, or family help. You, every one of you, have taken all that on, and us being here now is irrefutable proof that you've emerged victorious. It's your commitment to seeing this journey through, despite the million reasons not to, that we're really celebrating here today. And wow, what a journey. From that first day at kindergarten or nursery, when your parents abandoned you, to a teacher that looked like a 1970s Soviet women's shot put champion, despite your protestations that you really, really didn't want to go, to the day that your parents said, one day you will go to big school. And you realized that they'd lied to you again, because far from being one day, it turned out to be over a decade. From those early days when not only did your parents dress you, but also took photographs so they could embarrass you with those 20 years later. To the day that you dressed yourself and they looked at you with that, you seriously going out dressed like that? But those families have been with you every step of the way to this wonderful moment in time. So graduands and lecturers, a round of applause for the families and friends. Now you're probably thinking, please get on with it. All we want to do is to get across the stage without losing our mortarboard or tripping over our gowns and landing in someone's lap in the front row. And what a choice of laps you have today. It's like the Grand Budapest Hotel meets 50 Shades of Grey. Finally, on a technical note, I don't care whether you've been up here before. I know many of you have. I don't care how old you are, how brainy brilliant you are, or anything. You haven't actually got your degrees yet. And you getting one may just depend on how much love you show me when you come up here. No love, no degree. Is that clear? Families and friends, this is a glorious opportunity for you to seriously embarrass your loved ones when they did it enough times to you growing up. So it's payback time. So do have your cameras ready and feel free to make as much noise as you can as your superstar crosses the stage. If any of you are here on your own today, graduands, I'll be your family or friend. So you're not alone. I call upon the Vice-Chancellor to address the congregation.
Chancellor, Mr. Mayor, graduands, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Oh dear, Chancellor. It's a cold morning, but we need to warm things up. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. Fantastic. Well, it's a real pleasure for me to add my welcome to this graduation ceremony. Graduation is one of the highlights of our academic year, a day of celebration and one where you mark a significant achievement in your life. It's a great honor and a privilege to be able to share in your happiness today. Although graduation has its formal aspects, you may have noticed that we have made a bit of an effort and dressed up for the occasion. As the Chancellor has indicated, it's also a time to relax, have fun, and family and friends, I'll endorse what the Chancellor has said, do all you possibly can to embarrass your loved ones as they walk, run, dance, cartwheel, trip across the stage. During the past 5 years, the university has grown, and it's not surprising that we are graduating more students at these winter ceremonies than ever before. Nearly 2,000 of you will cross the stage during these ceremonies, with ages ranging from 20 to 77 years, coming from 112 different nations. What an amazing reflection on the diversity and truly global reach of Sussex. Sussex has an outstanding reputation for world-leading research, and many of you graduating today have contributed to this. Our growth strategy will ensure that we continue to be globally competitive as a research-intensive university. In the government's latest Research Excellence Framework, a major assessment of university research across the UK, which only comes every 6 years, 98% of our research was assessed as world-leading, internationally excellent, or internationally recognised. This is an outstanding result. Our new strategic plan, Making the Future, goes even further and affirms that the university's commitment for its research to have impact beyond the bounds of academia. Many of our impact case studies submitted in the Research Excellence Framework showed that our research is making a real difference to people's lives, whether this is in healthcare, influencing policy in low-income countries, or digitising history. Our future strategy states clearly that we will enhance our international focus. 25% of our students are now from overseas, and we celebrate an increasingly internationally diverse teaching and research staff. Sussex has a reputation for being a place where people from all over the world can make friends easily. Last year, the university teamed up with the Students' Union to host One World Week, a celebration of international diversity and a way to promote understanding of global issues. It was such a success that we've committed to making it an annual event. The tragic events in France earlier this month endorse for me the importance for universities to remain united, promoting understanding across national, political, and religious boundaries, and offering opportunities to dispel prejudice and xenophobia. As well as thinking globally, we act locally. The university contributes to Brighton and the South East in many ways. We already contribute £600 million each year to the British economy, and more than 2/3 of that goes into the local economy. And we're helping small businesses get off the ground too. Through our Sussex Innovation Centre, we offer startups a range of support for developing business strategy, finance, marketing and sales, PR, and research. We plan to extend this reach later this year when we will open a branch in the centre of Croydon, as well as a Brighton branch the following year in 2016. In parallel with the growth in students and academic faculty, we're continuing to enhance the campus to a quality that we believe will provide an unparalleled experience for our students and staff. At the beginning of this academic year, we provided a new home for the rapidly growing School of Law, Politics and Sociology. And later this year, we will open our refurbished Arts Centre, the Attenborough Centre of Creative Arts, in memory of our former Chancellor, Lord Attenborough. We're now planning a major new life sciences building and a further expansion of our campus student residential accommodation, providing more than an additional 2,500 beds, so we can meet our target of having at least 40% of our students in university housing. There are, however, some challenges ahead. We're all well aware of the financial pressures faced by our students and concerned that these pressures can only increase in the future. We were encouraged, however, by the recent announcement that loans will be available next year for postgraduate students. Sussex is also making an important contribution to ease the pressure by creating additional scholarships. These include Sussex Graduate Scholarships and the Chancellor's Master's Scholarships, which are additional to our international scholarships. I hope that some of you graduating in this ceremony will have been able to take advantage of these schemes. Many of you here today will have come to Sussex from overseas, and I want to say a few words especially to you. Our university would be a very different place without you, and we thank you for your contribution to making Sussex such a diverse and vibrant place to be, a place where students and staff from across the world can work and play together and learn to live together. We acknowledge that the visa application process for you remains excessively bureaucratic, and we continue to make the case to the Home Office that our international students are not immigrants, but highly valued guests. You make a vital contribution to our research and taught programs and make it possible for the university to create a global community on the campus. You also remain extremely important to us when you return home, as we believe you are our best ambassadors in your own country. For that, I thank you. At a predominantly postgraduate ceremony like this, we get a sense of the huge diversity of graduating students. Of course, some of today's graduands are themselves parents, some with children still at home. To you, I offer special congratulations. Balancing family life and study is a real challenge. My warmest congratulations to you. Now, I've told you a few things about the university's progress over the last year, but something I've learnt since coming to Sussex is that people seem to like it better the less I speak. So we put together a short film in which our students reflect on their Sussex experience, consider their futures, and send you a farewell message.
Daunted.
Proud.
Excited.
Nervous.
Very, very emotional.
Very scared.
I would say it was fantastic.
On my first day at university, I was really eager to get going.
All the parts, definitely. The diversity of the people who live here.
Good people, good weather. When the sun out, just wanted it.
The rain.
Comedy festival. Probably like musical opportunities for the chances to play music.
The beach. White House City. I like the idea of multiculturalism, but also I like the night life is really beautiful.
Comprehensive. Inspiring.
Excellent.
Amazing.
Crazy.
Intense. Excellent.
Pushing the boundaries for being a violent real world.
Excellent. The research quality is so good, so good.
We have so much experience. Sussex is being about one word.
I would definitely say the students.
Reopening of the Attenborough Centre.
The family accommodation.
The university's biggest success, in my opinion, is the tutors.
Biggest success this year has been winning varsity, in which we beat Brighton University almost all the sporting events we played for.
Exploring other culture.
To work with a group of people.
Practical skills I need for my career.
You know, struggling with our own fears.
Stay calm.
Your hard work will be rewarded.
To enjoy your time, because it goes really quickly. It just has taught me just to stay strong whatever happens. You just have to carry on doing what you love.
The big life lesson I learned at uni is that money disappears surprisingly quickly.
Relieved. But also really proud.
Sad.
And excited and happy.
Excited you're sounding in Sussex.
Really excited.
I just hope I'm not one that falls.
Accomplishment.
It means a lot because I want my mom to see me.
Yeah, on my graduation day, I will feel sad. Like every
graduates, the world is your oyster, and if you can see, it's not the greatest day, but there's always silver linings to aim for, so just try your best, and it'll always come through.
Congratulations, everyone. We've made it!
What's coming next is going to be a blast. Well done, guys. You smashed it.
Congratulations, everybody. Congratulations, everyone. I'm so proud of you. We did it.
Congratulations to all graduates and also parents. It's the end of our journey, but it's the beginning of our future. Congratulations!
Special thanks to all of you who took part in the video and to Carrie Prue and our communications team who were responsible for the production. And now a few words to families and friends. Firstly, can I join the Chancellor in thanking you for the support that you have given your sons and daughters, your partners, your spouses, and in some cases your parents and other family members during their time at Sussex, for it has helped to make today a reality. Many of you will have made great sacrifices to help your loved ones get to this point today. And the university fully recognises the important role that you have played and offer you our sincere thanks. Graduands, I hope that your experiences of Sussex have extended well beyond the formal limits of your degree, and that they will have gone some way to prepare you for the future. But remember, this is not the end of education, just a point along a lifelong journey of learning. I hope also that you will be able to take our values, such as freedom, tolerance, equality, social responsibility, and honesty, forward into the next stage of your life. I would ask you to remember the multinational community that you have created here at Sussex, and build on those experiences as you go out into the wider world. Sadly, we still live in a world where poverty, catastrophe, and conflict abound. We all have the responsibility to play our part to promote societal change, and I look to you and your Sussex experience to go out in the world and make a real difference. As you think about your new life that will begin to unfold as you leave the ceremony today, I would ask you to keep some place in your heart for Sussex. You will always be part of the Sussex family, and it is likely that we will need you in the future, perhaps more than you will need the university. You will, of course, be joining an illustrious group of alumni, many of whom have made major contributions to the worlds of politics, government, academia, the creative industries, business, international development, and so on. You name it, and you will find Sussex graduates worldwide changing lives, making an impact. Our alumni relations team will make sure that we stay in contact wherever you might be in the future. And finally, let me take this opportunity to say again how proud of you we are and offer you our sincere congratulations. I wish all of you every good fortune for your chosen future and hope that your experience at Sussex has gone some way to prepare you for the next stage of your life. My very best wishes to you all. I call upon the head of the School of Education and Social Work, Professor Brian Hudson.
Chancellor, I present to you for the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Social Work, Helen Fordham. For the degree of Postgraduate Certificate in Education, Pedagogy and Practice, Stephen Robinson. Hilary Seaton. For the Postgraduate Certificate in Effective Practice Integrated Children's Services, Natalie Paul. Caroline Russell. For post-qualifying specialist social work with children and young people, Abigail Brining. April Golding. And Claire Welburn. For the degree of Master of Arts in Applied Social Care, Lewis Herritt. For Childhood and Youth Studies, Jessica Christie. And Arlie McGuinness. For Education Studies, Bonnie Hall. James Lawton. Rosie Panett. Melanie Louise Phippen. Rada Stewart. Lauren Summers Hayward. Catherine Tinsley. And Mark Warner. For International Education and Development, Jonathan Oxford Coxall. Trudy Natalie Harris. Susan Kent. Julia Hannah Ponce. Talene Sabella. Hannah Stone. Ryoko Suzuki. And Elizabeth Ann Tuhig. For social work, Gemma Dixon. And Amanda Geary. For the degree of Master of Education, Philippa Lucas. And Claire Power. Chancellor, I will now present to you for the degree of Doctor of Education. For the thesis, School Self-Evaluation for Quality Improvement, Investigating the Practice of Policy in Kenya, Akihiro Fushimi. For the thesis, Learning as Participation in Early Clinical Experience, Its Meaning for Student Physiotherapists, Julian Paul Hargreaves. Well done. For the thesis, Supporting Learning Autonomy and Curriculum Coverage in University Teaching, 3 case studies of formative assessment, Paolo Aprandi. For the thesis, how does student-teacher research contribute to knowledge creation within the secondary school context? Robert Rosenthal. Chancellor, I will now present to you for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. For the thesis, Sexuality and the Asylum Process, the Perspectives of Lesbians Seeking Asylum in the UK, Claire Bennett. For the thesis, Dreaming Myself, Combining Dreams, Autobiographical Writing and Psychotherapy in Addressing Narrative Fracture, Janet Mary Dennett. For the thesis, What happens to bruised or damaged nurses? Mark Radcliffe. Well done. Congratulations. For the thesis, Influence and Originality in Creative Writing Process, Mark Slater. Well done. For the thesis, Telling the Story, what can be learned from parents' experience of the professional response following the sudden, unexpected death of a child? Denise Turner. For the thesis, Doing the Rights Thing, an ethnography of a dominant discourse of rights in a primary school in England, Rebecca Webb. Well done. Congratulations. I'm so pleased. Chancellor, this concludes the list of graduands from the School of Education and Social Work.
I call upon the head of the School of Global Studies, Professor Andrea Cornwall.
Chancellor, I present to you for the degree of Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology and French with a study abroad year, Edward Divers. For the degree of Master of Arts in Anthropology, Erica DeVivo. Jessica Forsyth. Olga Leonhardt. For Anthropology of Development and Social Transformation, Elif Noor Ekinci Karaman. Serion Leon. Michael Edward Little. Georgios Poulemenokos. Also awarded the Bill and Scarlett Epstein Prize for the highest dissertation mark in anthropology, Eleanor Snowden. Well done. For conflict, security and development, Oyinka Shola Akintola Bello. Katerina Brassington. Louise Bullen. Katie Hall. Kathleen Hammond. Philip Illich. Tor Peder Valdemar Jorgensen. Archie Desmond Lightfoot. Adaora Moma. Demetrius Notas. Joachim Nyberg. Nufisa Usefani. Aurélie Perret. Also awarded the Lisa Smurl Prize for the Best Dissertation in Conflict, Security and Development, Daniela Polman. Elias Sadney. Alexander David Sturmey. Kate Louise Valente. Lucinda Vancouver. Emily Kate Wilborn. For Environment, Development and Policy, Marion Ennius. Rachel Bahun. Costanza Poggi. Mathieu Ramsawak. Philippa Rose Rodis. Gesa Nora Penticilio Raw. Sarah Shokri. Catherine Sims. Kengo Yamanouchi. For Geopolitics and Grand Strategy, also awarded the prize for the best dissertation in Geopolitics and Grand Strategy, Matthew Batten Carew. Well done. Ayub Elias Abdullah. Francesca Garnons Williams. Alexander Gionis. Paolo Mozzi. George Oates. Pauline Olivier. For Global Political Economy, Selen Antman. Luai Khalaf. Okay. Adam Pollock. Also awarded the prize for the best dissertation in Global Political Economy, Helena Takala. Well done. For Globalization, Ethnicity and Culture, Jennifer Rose Hopkins. For Human Rights, Natalie Armitage. Hannah Clifford. Camila Goma-Perales. Jessica Hall. Sophie Jenkins. Alice Rhiannon Jones. Charlotte McKeever. Olivia Murphy. Thea Parr. Lucy Rowlington. Ochnit Shafir Mella. Cassandra and Mary Vina. For International Relations, Jack Bettles. Subarada Chalajib. Christian Engel. Charlotte Fraser. Luke Brian Harvey. Also awarded the prize for the best dissertation in international relations, Matthew Ian Jackson. Smita Kanodia. Chi Hin Lung. Daisy Moore. Yoshiaki Moriya. Nirvan Singh. Gok An Vu. Fatima A. Zeb. For international security, Pushan Das. Christopher John Hayward. Sihayanas Kamis. Also awarded the prize for the best dissertation in international security, Kevin Francis McCann. Jennifer Miller-Smith. Veronique Rendell-Fournier. Sophie Ryan. Ben Stoddart. Sky Strasman. Etienne Gerda-Dogon. For migration studies, Julius Baker. Miriam Boytka. Monica Encinas. Ruth Buinde. For social development, Leila Amos. Drayton Berridge. Kevin Jamal Carter. Satomi Hasegawa. Maya Mason Lemos. Sarah McCann. Diana Mekanic. Daniela Ortega Reyes. Claire Salmons. Yuriko Suji. Liliana Vasquez Aldrete. For the degree of Master of Science in Applied Geomorphology, Ekena Emmanuel Osoromworwu. For Climate Change and Development, Flavio Sisala Chanda. For Climate Change and Policy, Bonnie Dennison. Callum Dunkeld. Gregory Edwards. For Social Research Methods, Mimi Clare. Aisha Lynn Burkett. Louise Sims. Elsie Whittington. Chancellor, I will now present to you for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, for the thesis, Slippery Fish, Material Worlds, the Substance of Subsistence in Coastal Sierra Leone, which I also had the privilege of examining, Jennifer Diggins. Well done. For the thesis, Performing Gender in the Theatre of War, Embodying the Invasion, Counterinsurgency and Exit Strategy in Afghanistan, Sina Divik. For the thesis Between Hopelessness to Ambivalence, Young Egyptian Secondary Schooling and the Arab Spring in Urban Cairo, Mamdou Kamal Hakim Fadil. Well done. Congratulations. For the thesis, Moving On, Experiences of Social Mobility in a Mixed-Class North London Neighbourhood, Deborah Humphrey. Well done. Thank you. Thank you very much. For the thesis, Negotiating Educational Desire, Migrant Youths and Aspirations in Shanghai, China, Ole Kalland. Well done. For the thesis, Beyond Depoliticisation and Resistance, Refugees, Humanitarianism and Political Agency in Neoliberal Cairo, Elisa Pascucci. For the thesis, Illness and Healthcare Experiences of Recent Low-Income International Migrants in a UK City, Kira Randawa. For the thesis, Being Nationalist, Identity Within a Post-Ottoman State, Veselina Ratcheva. Great. Chancellor, this concludes the list of graduates from the School of Global Studies.
Head of the game. I call upon Ivor Garber, Professor of Journalism, to present John Simpson.
Chancellor, John Simpson, CBE, was born 70 years ago. After an education at Dulwich College and Magdalen College, Cambridge, he joined the BBC as a trainee radio news sub-editor in 1966. His near 50-year BBC career has included stints as the corporation's political editor, its diplomatic editor, 9 o'clock news presenter, and now World Affairs editor. But this glittering reporting career began slightly inauspiciously when, on his very first day as a reporter, he doorstepped, as we call it in the trade, Harold Wilson, the then Prime Minister, and asked him if he intended calling an election. The Prime Minister clearly objected to this young whippersnapper and proceeded to punch him in the stomach. Not something that even the more muscular Alistair Campbell has yet resorted to. Undaunted, John's career moved apace. He's now reported from over 140 countries, interviewed around 200 world leaders, including Mikhail Gorbachev, Margaret Thatcher, Colonel Gaddafi, Nelson Mandela, and Robert Mugabe. During the Iranian Revolution, he flew to Tehran with the Ayatollah Khomeini. He dodged bullets in Tiananmen Square massacre. He danced on the top of the Berlin Wall in 1989 as it fell, and was on hand for revolutions in Czechoslovakia and Romania that followed. In 1994, he covered the end of apartheid in South Africa. He watched the missiles fall in Baghdad in the First Gulf War and was in northern Iraq during the 2003 invasion when he was wounded in an American-friendly fire attack. He reported on the fall of Kabul in 2001, the contested election in Iran in 2009, and the revolutions in Egypt and Libya in 2011. Most recently, he was one of the few Western reporters to venture into northern Nigeria to cover the Boko Haram's murderous campaign there. In 1991, he was made a CBE for his reporting. He's authored, at the last count, 13 books, which, by my reckoning, Vice-Chancellor, makes him highly referable next time round. So to conclude, here's a brief glimpse of one or two moments in John Simpson's most distinguished television career, starting with a report from Halabja in northern Iraq, shortly after a chemical weapons attack by Saddam Hussein's forces, which killed an estimated 5,000 Kurds and seriously injured a further 7,000.
This is one of the worst examples of a gas attack in this war, perhaps the worst. The bodies which litter this town were those of people who ran out of their houses to try to escape the gas and then were killed out in the open, either by more gas or by high explosive.
Apart from the bodies of the dead, there are only a few civilians left in Halabja, people who refuse to be evacuated or who missed the chance for some reason.
This is it. We're walking into Kabul city. We don't seem to have any problems around us. There's only people that are friendly and are saying, chanting, I'm afraid, kill the Taliban. But as we understand it, as we walk in here, there aren't going to be that many Taliban anyway.
This is what war is really like. I'd been hit by several pieces of shrapnel, my eardrum had burst, and some of my clothes had been torn off by the explosion. Our group was completely scattered.
Just ripped the trouser leg right off the zip here. You can see, just tore it off. You can imagine the force of it. It just left me with half a pair of shorts. And it's pretty dusty, but this is where the bits of shrapnel hit me, but that was, of course, the big one, the difficult one. I'm quite grateful to this. I mean, it really did save my life.
I can't give you the option of continuing, because I know what you'll say. So I think you should go back to Calais tonight.
Well, I mean, you know, it's your call, and I know you're doing it with my best interests in mind, for which I'm very grateful. So, you know, it's so bloody humiliating. I can't go to the lavatory without help.
The glamorous life of a BBC reporter fighting a losing battle with frostbite. So, Chancellor, I present to you for the degree of Doctor of Letters, honoris causa, John Simpson, CBE.
Well, Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, I can't tell you how much I appreciate this great honour that you've given me. I know it's one of the greatest things that a university can do, and it's, believe me, I am thoroughly grateful for it, to the extent where I'm wearing some of the weirdest clothes I've ever worn. I thought you might refer to it sympathetically. I did dress up as a woman to get into Taliban-held Afghanistan at one stage, but I felt a lot more natural then than I do now. But I hope you forgive me. When I think about the importance of Sussex in my sphere of activity in journalism, it's really important. It's produced three top-class BBC people. There's been Helen Bowden, who was the head of news until just recently. There was Clive Myrie, a really good reporter, correspondent friend of mine, and Robin Lustig, also the presenter of The World Tonight. And there are others, of course, in the pipeline. So it really does feel the right place for me to receive an honour like that. Right for me. I mean, I'm not sure how right it is for the university. All my life, I remember when when Sussex was founded, it was a byword for sort of radical students and activism and so forth. I quietly, politely asked if there was still a certain degree of radicalism in the student body, and I was absolutely delighted to know that here, at any rate, in Sussex, you do still have the flame burning. Not everybody wants to be a chartered accountant, I'm glad to say. When you, Ivor, went through some of those things, I thought perhaps you might think that my life is an unredeemed series of horrors, of going to places where dreadful things happen and people behave in the most appalling way to one another. That is true. Mind you, it's pretty much true at the BBC at the moment too, but it is true, and I've seen a lot of terrible things, massacres and bombings and murders and so forth. But that isn't all there is. You, Chancellor, I think, quoted your mother as talking about, what was it, seeing the helpers, looking for the helpers, and that, or the carers, well, whatever the word was, something like that. And that is absolutely true. You cannot go to one of these dreadful scenes of atrocity and cruelty and brutality without also finding people who are loving and helpful and want to do the best thing, not the worst thing. And it's true, in my experience from Rwanda, when I was there at the time of the massacre, one of the worst things that's happened, right through to, well, for instance, in northern Nigeria, just a few weeks ago. There are always the good people. They may not outnumber the bad people, but they're always good. And I'm just reminded, as I often am when I think about this kind of thing, of a little piece of doggerel, really, written by a man called John Masefield, who was poet laureate in the 1930s, not very highly regarded now, but he did write a lovely little squib, which says, I think it's called Epitaph or Epilogue or something like that, and it says, "I have seen flowers grow in stony places, and kind things done by men with ugly faces, and the gold cup won by the worst horse at the races, so I hope too." And that's really the lesson of my long years in the job. There's an awful lot of hope, and I think you, as you graduate, as you go into the world, as you take your excellent tuition that you've received at Sussex into the world with you, there's an awful lot of hope for you too. Thank you very much indeed.
By the authority of the Senate and the Council of the University, it gives me great pleasure to confer upon you the degree Doctor of Letters honoris causa. By all means, take your hat off.
I call upon the head of the School of History, Art History and Philosophy, Professor Clive Webb.
Chancellor, I present to you For the degree of Bachelor of Arts in History, Isla Forrester. May Gagan. Alicia Rama. Jack Scales. Holly Watson. For the degree of Master of Arts in Art History, Rachel Valentine Margot Asu. Sophia Jessica Henrietta Balfour Lynn. Imoke Borbeli Soproni. Janie Dallander. Alexandra Gorford. Natalia Kosterska. Miyako Nishi. Helen Turner. Carly Vaughan. Katerina Winkler. For Art History and Museum Curating, Laura De Lepiane. Nina Hirschhorn. Yijiao Hu. Charlotte Hukin. Georgia Morley. Katrina Nyman. Veronica Neroy Klej. Quiva O'Gorman. Pollyanna Thorburn. Jane Vokins. Zhuoling Wang. Shuyi Yung. For art history and museum curating with photography, Elizabeth Bracegirdle. Natalie Lamboulay. Lara Simmons. For contemporary history, Holly Cook. Charles Dix. Rhea Edwards. Also awarded the Beryl Williams History Prize for the Best MA History Dissertation, Owen Emerson. For intellectual history, James Allen. Also awarded the Martin White Memorial Prize for the Best Dissertation in International History, Berglind Rosa Bergistotir. Shane Horwell. Richard Alec Lynch Smith. For literature and philosophy, Claudia Cockrell. Stephen McCusker. James Vatter. For philosophy, Francesco Frendo. Areti Giannopoulou. Naomi Grant. Peter Lansley. For social and political thought, Melissa Baker. Amanda Beamer. Craig Gent. Jack Lawrence. Shuran Ma. Daniel Marco Wadey. Also awarded the Gillian Rose Memorial Prize for the Best Social and Political Thought Dissertation, Elizabeth Perry. Jack Tweddle. Peter Walker. Chancellor, I will now present to you for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy for the thesis, Shifting Silence, Enduring Shame, Ambivalent Memories, an oral history of the Portuguese Colonial War, 1961 to 1974, Angela Ferreira Campos. For the thesis, Troubled by Life, the Experiences of Stress in 20th Century Britain, Fiona Kirby. For the thesis, Community of Singularities, Being With in the work of Heidegger, Levinas, and Derrida, Maria Popescu. And for the thesis, The Political Thought of John Brown, Religion, Reform, and International Relations, Parveen Yeat. Chancellor, this concludes the list of graduates from the School of History, Art History, and Philosophy.
I call upon the Director of the Institute of Development Studies, Professor Melissa Leach.
Chancellor, I present to you for the degree of Master of Arts in Development Studies, Arturo Bolondi. Natalie Campbell. Maria Celli Reyna. Irena Gonzalo Borrego. Michelle Pena Nels. Mohammad Rahimuddin. Shima Shahid. For Gender and Development, Enji Ayman Khalifa Gozlan. Emily Schreier. Xin Wen. Deepti Ameta. Well done. Isabel de la Pena. Joseph Flores. Kendra Lear Hughes. Noburu Yoshida. Miko Yoshidomi. For governance and development, Mette Hartmeier. Well done. Thomas Chukwuma Ijere. Ketavan Kachidze. Okay. Rhiannon McCluskey. Well done. Congratulations. So Sayama. Noloyiso Victoria Tsembei. For participation, power and social change, and also awarded the prize for the best dissertation in the Institute of Development Studies, Ana Maria Clever Munoz. Yuen Ip. Mohammed Rakibul Islam. Patience Bamidele. Well done.
Yeah, Patience.
Okay. Martha Kimmel. Maria Garrido Martin. Ulrika Elizabeth Hansen. Camilla Landberg. Rufaro Vaida Makamuri. Tukia Betty Mbewe. Okay. Prosper Muwadzi Mudzamiri. James Murdoch. Keito Ofuchi. Samir Panjwani. Anu Eugene Zimmerman. For Science, Society and Development, Oscar Horga Jordan. Chancellor, I now present to you for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy for the thesis, The Power of Perceptions, Elites, Opinion Polling and the Quality of Elections in Sub-Saharan Africa, Graham Ramshaw. Well done. Congratulations. Chancellor, this concludes the list of graduates from the Institute of Development Studies.
I call upon the Chief Executive of the Roffey Park Institute, Michael Jenkins.
Chancellor, I present to you for the Postgraduate Certificate in Leadership and Management, Alistair Boswell. Stephen Green. And George Pargeter. Chancellor, that concludes the list of graduates from the Roffey Park Institute.
Chancellor, I present to you graduates who were unable to graduate earlier with their schools of study. For the degree of Master of Arts in Human Rights, Mambwe Chela. And for the degree of Master of Arts in Development Studies, Tadala Nelly Nsaliwa. Come on, Chancellor, get it together. Well, that was worth waiting for, wasn't it? Fantastic. Chancellor, this is the moment when you have 1 or 2 seconds just to reflect on whether you truly believe you've had sufficient love during this ceremony.
Yeah.
Excellent. Chancellor, you have now met all the graduands being presented to you at this ceremony, and the moment has come for the formal conferral of degrees of the University of Sussex. I therefore ask you to confer their degrees on those presented to you, and to the other graduands who have indicated their wish to graduate in absentia at this ceremony.
That's just to prove that this is live. I formally conferred degrees on all those mentioned by the Vice-Chancellor. Congratulations, you've done it. Well, that was all pretty great, wasn't it? Congratulations, everyone. Well done, including our honoris causa as well, Dr. Simpson. And well done, family and friends as well. Some of you were truly embarrassing. So, respect. So as your time here at Sussex draws to a close, we hope that you will keep us in your hearts and thoughts and will remain connected to us as alumni. The Alumni Association isn't just there to keep you up to date with what's going on and arranging get-togethers and so forth. It's a fundamental resource for the future graduates of the university. Like you, at one stage, many students will be living away from home for the first time, having new responsibilities thrust upon them, dealing with debt for the first time, trying to negotiate the tricky waters of making and maintaining new friendships and relationships. And they could do no better than to be able to tap into the experiences of those who've experienced it firsthand. So I hope that as many of you as possible will get involved with the various programs designed to help new students with their development and employability. There are those present here today that have been associated with your success that look upon these days with huge fondness as well. So please show your appreciation for your teachers, tutors, and staff. Whether your next step is gainful employment, the search for it, further academic study, or simply some time out, I wish you all the very best. In closing a ceremony, the Chancellor of a university is supposed to say something inspiring or impart some wisdom. Since I spend most of my time seeking inspiration from others, and me and wisdom are only connected by the word teeth, I'm sorely underqualified to provide you with either. But we've paid the rent on the room for a few minutes longer, so I'll just chuck a few things your way, and what you do with them is completely up to you. I won't be offended either way. It strikes me that, especially on days like this, there's that thing that sits in front of us every day, which many people regard with great suspicion and great fear, the future. You hear a lot of, think of the future. You've got to plan for the future. What about your future? Actually, there's nothing wrong with any of those questions, unless it leads, I think, to a fear of the future. Fear of the future is just a paralysis in the present. Ultimately, it's the fear of the unknown, right? It kind of has to be. So we stick with, better the devil you know. But the one thing we can all agree upon is that the future is unpredictable. Most people think that unpredictable means worse. As I graduated, the country was in deep recession. There were precious few jobs, houses were being repossessed, businesses were failing at an alarming rate. I ended up in debt. I remember I sued a company, a marketing company I was working for breach of contract, and it took 2 years for them to settle with me out of court, during which time I couldn't work. And before I knew it, I'd hit 30 and was in debt and unemployed and in a court case. And I honestly couldn't see a way out. It just felt very, very bleak. So I filled my time by I got depressed for a month and watched lots of films, which was, fun. And then I filled my time by I volunteered at a local hospital just to fill in some time, but I also started to write. And I then got together with a musician friend of mine, and we decided that the stuff that I'd written, that we'd perform on stage, just to fill time. And at one of these performances, in a small studio space, amongst the audience was a producer from the BBC who liked what I did and invited me to help create a comedy sketch show. And 2.5 years later, I was in an award-winning TV show that has opened up a most wonderful life. It was totally unpredictable. And when I remember the posters I had on my wall as a teenager, the heroes and icons, it still amazes me how many of those I've now met, and in some cases I've become friends with. And I couldn't have predicted that either. And going back further, some of you may know that Sussex was my first choice when I was applying for universities, and I didn't get in. Apparently my grades weren't good enough. So I waited till all those who'd prevented me from getting in had either retired, been deported, were in prison, or became just plain dead, and I got in as chancellor. So the moral of the story is, but also unpredictable. So, several times now, from the other side of hopelessness, when I look back, particularly at my 20s, even some of my teens, I kind of no longer see a period of abject failure as I did then. I see a subconscious gathering of experiences through hardships that have enabled me to survive for almost 2 decades since. I see an education in life matters and relationships that today allows me to help out my kids in a far less theoretical way, to viscerally value the depth of friendships and the importance of relationships, and more importantly, the ones that I choose to surround myself with. I now realize that I wasn't the loser I thought I was then. I was just success in waiting. And I've felt successful ever since. And I don't mean sort of wealth, mansions, and sports cars. I don't have any of those. It's because I don't define myself anymore by a bad day or a bad week or a bad year. As I've indicated, I had a bad decade, but I came out of it. And I know now, because I've done it, that empirically, that I always will. I feel successful because I've become aware that my life is described by the meaning I give it. A good friend of mine told me, on hearing someone say that life was meaningless, he jumped and said, yes, life is meaningless. Therefore, it only has whatever meaning you put into it. And also, I think I now realize that the picture I see, no matter how complete I think it is never the whole picture. I also realize that I have choice. Always have, always will. So I choose to seek inspiration from people and moments that move me and make me feel good about myself and the world that we live in. All the people that I've chosen to be friends with, and hopefully have chosen me, all have one or two elements in common. The main one they have is boundless compassion. They consistently express their humanity in thought, word, and deed, either instinctively or by, like me, working on it. They listen. They empathize, they give, not for adulation or respect, but because they're simply expressing who they are. As Maya Angelou, the great American poet, said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. I've learned to be curious and to be principled, but not rigid, to make mistakes, and to try and never repeat them. A person who keeps making the same mistake over and over is an idiot. And learn to be generous about other people's mistakes. Somebody might have the solution to a really vital problem that could change the world or solve the essential hurdle right in front of you, and they could be wrong about every other thing. Hear them out. I hope I've learned to have the courage of my convictions, which means allowing your convictions to be tested fully so you can know them better. And if someone puts forward an argument that reveals your conviction to be incomplete, modify your principle. Don't be afraid to change it. Adapt. It won't be the defeat of your principle. It'll be the evolution of it. As Lao Tse, the famous Chinese philosopher, said, if you do not change direction, you may end up where you're heading, which is linked to kind of Churchill's quote, which is, if you find yourself in hell, keep going. No experience need ever be wasted. If you're not enjoying something, what are you learning from it? And if you're not enjoying it and you're not learning from it, why are you doing it? Stop. Do something else. There's one of my favorite stories, which is about two mice that fell into a bowl of cream and couldn't get out. And one mouse just kind of said, this is impossible, and gave up and drowned. And the other mouse kind of struggled and struggled and thrashed and splashed and struggled and carried on struggling until all the cream had been churned into butter and he stepped out of the bowl. Sometimes the struggle is the solution. I believe that we are the sum total of our choices and our experiences, good, bad, and ugly. But what constantly defines us is always, always what we do next. We're all creative, we're constantly creating, and therefore we can create a better self every day, every minute, every second. So don't skimp on your dreams. Einstein said that logic can take you from A to B. Your imagination can take you anywhere. And I'll leave you with some quotes that are sort of interrelated, I think. This is from Martin Luther King, who said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And one from the Dalai Lama, who said there are only 2 days in the year that nothing can be done. One is called yesterday, and the other is called tomorrow. So today is the right day to love, believe, do, and mostly live. And finally, from Charles M. Schulz, who created the Peanuts cartoon, this is one of my favorite quotes of all time, I think. And he said, "Stop worrying about the world ending today. It's already tomorrow in Australia." So, my friends, yesterday is for the archivists, tomorrow is for the fortune teller, but today belongs to you. We can only build a fabulous tomorrow on the foundations of a great today. Thank you for letting me be part of your great today. Be creative, dream big, be passionate, be compassionate, and never, never give up. I wish you all happiness and good fortune in everything you do. I officially declare this graduation closed.